Hello, it's me, Brenda. I'm here again with CSL Book Shorts for Wednesday night. The book I'll be reading tonight is Thank and Grow Rich by Pam Grout. The subtitle is A 30-Day Experiment in Shameless Gratitude and Unabashed Joy. So we have been studying this on Sunday mornings. If you'd like to follow that along, just look up the YouTubes of the Sunday mornings in November. And I have been reading excerpts out of this book on those Sunday morning services. So I'm going to read a little bit more that I have not shared in those Sunday mornings today. So I'm going to start with the introduction. And she says, in 2013, my world was choke slammed upside down. And I mean that in the best possible way. After 20 plus years of being a writer, sitting in my pajamas, penning 15 books and countless magazine articles, I dropped the tracks for E squared. For whatever reason, luck, timing, planets aligning, that little black book with the funny little shot up into the stratosphere, with the funny title, Shot Up into the Stratosphere, capturing the #1 spot on the New York Times bestseller list. It has since been translated into 30-some languages. To this day, I can't open my inbox without finding emails that start with some version of, "You are never going to believe this." It's like waking up every morning to my own self-help channel. Guess what, readers will write? I just won $500. Or I just got my dream job on a horse farm. And I get to celebrate with them right here in Lawrence, Kansas. I get to add to their energy of excitement and joy. I am deeply humbled to think my words might have even helped one person recognize a deeper truth. I am infinitely grateful that the do-it-yourself experiments in E squared cracked open a window to the unending beneficence of the universe. So E squared was another book that she had on the New York Times bestseller list. She says, in fact, if any serious researcher out there is looking for evidence that the world is limitless, abundant, and strangely accommodating, one of 9 spiritual principles covered in E squared, I've got a whole folder full of lab report sheets I'd be willing to share. Occasionally, however, I get an email from a reader who's pissed. They want to know who I think I am, claiming the world is a beautiful place. They want to know why all the good stuff happens to everybody else. They claim to have seen no evidence of what I call the field of infinite potentiality, the FP. And they're going to, poor things, go out and eat worms. She says this book is for them and for that scared little place in all of us that still can't quite believe the universe actually likes us and works in cahoots with our highest aspirations. She says, I started to notice a pattern within these anomalous why me letters. As I said, they sound a lot like my own crazy voices, the wild-haired loudmouths that still occasionally raise their hands in the back of my head. Hey, you, they like to scream. You're all alone. The world doesn't care about you. This is all bullshit. Those voices are the popular kids, the ones who make the nightly news, the ones we discuss around the water cooler, the ones we appoint commissions and launch websites to fight. In other words, the dominant paradigm. But they're not the truth. They will never be the truth. Another theme I noticed is just how hard these readers are trying, repeating affirmations, making vision boards, drawing focus wheels. I have nothing against those practices, but what happens when we fight and work and struggle because we think nothing will change unless we do, is we put up roadblocks to all the good that wants to manifest right before our eyes. The last thing I noticed about the Life Sucks emails is how deadly serious They all were. Lighten up, people. The whole idea is to have fun, to play around in the quantum sandbox. But yelling at serious people never works. At least it never works on the serious voices in my own head. But here's what does. Giving myself a break, counting my blessings, and getting on the frequency of joy and gratitude. Gratitude? Really? Isn't that sort of, well, lame? You just wrote a pair of powerhouse books about energy and infinite possibility, and now you're just going to sell out and write about something panty-waist like gratitude? That's so basic, so flimsy, so 101. Hold on, Sparky. The gratitude I'm talking about in this book is anything but flimsy or 101. Let's call it ferocious gratitude. In-your-face gratitude. None of the namby-pamby sunshine and lollipops crap. Because here's the thing. When we don't stop daily to inventory all the gazillion things going right in our lives, the crazy voices in our heads try to make us their bitch. When we don't count our blessings, the voices start jabbering, telling us that life sucks, that we suck. They're like the ticker crawl at the bottom of a news broadcast, running continuously in a non-stop loop. As long as we keep tuning into these voices, we fail to notice the incredible gift we've been given to be here on planet Earth, to have this day, to enjoy this cosmic adventure. By simply stopping every day and registering our connection to this undeniable, unchanging presence, we start to notice a deeper truth, a happier reality. We start to notice an eternal broadcast airing its joyful melody quietly beneath the static. If you want to override your brain's unfortunate habit of leafing through your past and creating a present hologram to match, forget thinking and start thanking. And I mean thanking everything. The bills that are stacking up, the doctor's report you weren't expecting, the buffoon of a boyfriend who drank an entire bottle of tequila last night and puked on your new Oriental carpet. When we practice this brand of ferocious gratitude, what I have dubbed the extreme sport of gratitude, we come to realize that all the striving, the endless struggle, the perpetual scrambling for our place in line is unnecessary. In truth, it's counterproductive and actually blocks the energy field that is and always has been available to sustain and guide us. Brazen gratitude provides a portal, an entry point straight into the heart of the very field of infinite possibilities. It puts you on an energetic frequency, a vibration that calls in miracles. Giving thanks, recognizing all the good in your life, is the gateway drug to a life most extraordinary. It's the superpower that moves you onto the frequency where beauty and joy and creativity happen. And here's the big secret. You don't have to work at connecting with this energy field. You don't have to be good enough to merit its attention or follow any formula to find it. You really don't have to do anything except quit listening to the voices. Quit creating static. So I'm going to go to the chapter on static then and read a little bit of this.
On what?
Static.
Oh, static.
It says, "Come on, Pam," people often say to me. "Living life with a party hat on seems irresponsible. If what you contend is true, why aren't more of us living in perpetual magic?" Same reason we don't always get a clear signal on our TV or our cell phone drops a call. Our frequency is fuzzy. They're static. An energetic cloud blocks the universal flow of good. The problem has never been reluctance on the part of the universe. The problem is in our inability to see the beautiful, loving truth it continually offers. She says, at this stage in our evolution, we humans have learned to over-rely on the tiny blob of plasma in our skulls that, quite frankly, is not logistically programmed to make dreams come true. It's programmed to see what it saw yesterday, to give you more of what you've already asked for, like Google ads. Every time I open my laptop, I get an ad hawking some version of the very thing I last Googled. Right now, for example, I'm shopping for pickleball shoes. So even though I'm attempting to open a Wikipedia page or Facebook, little ads pop up for sports shoes. Or if I'm planning a trip to, say, Los Angeles, I get pithy little sales pitches for hotels near LAX. Your brain works the same way. It accesses the big cloud of possibility and says, well, she's looking for relationship drama. Let's send that. Or, he's looking for money struggle. Let's serve him up a helping of overdue bills. As A Course of Miracles repeats again and again, we have replaced reality with our illusions. The first 50 lessons of the Course, in fact, train us to let go of any belief that what we see is objective fact. What we see, all we see, is a hologram of past disgruntlements and fears. Even though we believe our vision is like a camera, simply recording in real time all the shapes, objects, and motions we see, the truth is the brain's 130 million photoreceptors are joined by billions of neurons and synapses that construct and reconstruct literally anything our consciousness asks for. Once we let go of our massively false beliefs about perception, that we're seeing something real, we open up to a lot of new possibilities. Reality, it turns out, is a lot more fascinating and unexpected than we ever imagined. Here's a quote that starts this next subchapter by Dan Harris. It says, "The running commentary that dominates my field of consciousness is kind of an asshole." So here she writes again. Like gravity, a person's energetic static isn't something we can really see, but it operates just as consistently. Grumpy thoughts, unhappy attitudes, and declarations that life sucks keep the world's goodness locked out. When we feel ornery, when we start tuning into all the problems in our lives, we keep the world's channel of love and beneficence at bay. It's like the connection to the divine is blinking on and then off again. As long as we continue to hang on to old mental architecture that insists we must struggle and suffer and engage in complicated regimes, whether it be meditating or loving yourself or giving up gluten and sugar, we will be blind to all the gifts the universe offers up on a daily basis. Let's do a short rundown of static's innumerable incarnations. Our fundamental cultural paradigm. From the get-go, we're taught that we are separate entities and, at our core, selfish and only out for ourselves. To deal with this problem, we are taught to rein in our impulses, to get ourselves under control. Our main job, and indeed job, is a fitting description of our journey through life, is to seek out problems, compose plans to eliminate them, and use willpower to stay in line. The message that we must be coerced into doing the right thing is everywhere. Let's look at a few. The first thing, she's got bullet point. Humans are careless. Like, don't speed or else you'll have to go to court and pay a fine. Second bullet point, they're lazy. Workers need rules and supervisors. Third bullet point, they're indolent. Without grades, students would never learn. She says even worse is how cruelly we reprimand ourselves, seduced by our own negative mantras. I'm a failure. I'm bad. How could you? We say to ourselves anytime we eat something we shouldn't, anytime we score less than perfect 10s on our job evaluations, anytime we have a bad hair day. We're downright mean to ourselves. We go to war with those parts of ourselves we deem as unacceptable. The jiggly upper arms, the desire to dance in church. We did that. The pull we feel to skip work and write, and only end up crippling humanity as a whole. The answers we're taught are control, discipline, protection. But willpower only separates us from our true nature, only creates static that keeps us from recognizing that we are part of something thrilling and unfathomable that may never happen, that may never have happened before in the entire galaxy and may never happen again. The maniac in our heads. Waterboarding has nothing on the torture that sometimes takes place in my brain. A non-stop voice loop reminds me of all that's lacking in my life. This obnoxious voice keeps tabs on all I'm doing wrong and makes long lists of things I need to improve. It insists I should try really hard to be a better person. Its ears perk up anytime someone mentions a new self-help book. It's for my own good, it says. This voice is very clear that something is wrong with me. It tells me that, unlike everyone else, I have glaring flaws. Pam, it likes to say, you don't quite measure up to other people, the cool people. You aren't as funny. Your skin's not as clear. And while you sometimes have a way with words, you're basically day-old Alpo compared to, say, Pat Conroy or Mary Carr. You might as well just get in bed and start tomorrow. For the longest time, I thought this voice was me. It did a very convincing impersonation. I took the voice to therapy. I explained its opinions about my worth to my friends. I believed that when I voiced its concerns, I was voicing my concerns. It wasn't until I began counting my blessings that the other frequency was able to make contact, the still, small one that whispered kind truths. I liked what it was saying. It suggested I start focusing on how deeply I am loved, how truly beautiful the world is. It suggested the most important thing I could do for myself was get happy, quit judging myself. The still small voice reminded me that everything I see, everything I believe is just a story I made up. It told me that in truth, I am spirit, I am light. All those voices, those wars going on in my head are nothing but chunks of the collective consciousness that I can either believe and defend against, or I can transmute with gratitude. The real me, it told me, is kind, giving, in deep communion with all creation. The real me is a true force for love. Subtitle, It's Not Fair and Other Patterns of Thinking That Lead Us Around by the Nose. She says, anytime we look at a situation and feel that it should be other than it is, the malevolent puppeteer in our brain erects a wall of static. Here are a few other plot points the evil puppeteer uses to heckle us. Okay. Bullet point 1. Something needs to be fixed. Bullet point number 2. There's only so much to go around. Bullet point 3. If I give of myself, people will take advantage. Bullet point 4. If I follow my heart, I'll be alone. Bullet point 5. If I pursue my passion, I'll be a laughingstock. And bullet point 6. It's dangerous to follow my joy. A little subtitle called Sloppy Judgment. She says, the minute you judge something, like this party isn't any fun, this drive is taking too long, this person is so boring, you miss everything from that point on. Why want the line to move faster, to be with different people, to be in a different situation, when right now, in this very moment with these people, in this exact situation, you can have everything you could ever want? Judge not means more than refraining from judging others. It also means keeping your consciousness open. Okay, chapter 3. Change your frequency. Change the world. Carl Sagan said, this is the quote, somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known. She says, this is the chapter for the eye rollers, the snickerers, the folks who think gratitude is sweet and all, but there are rainforests to be saved, starving children to feed. I would like to suggest that there is nothing more important that you could ever do for yourself, your family, your friends, your planet, and yes, even for the starving children, than to tune into the frequency of gratitude and joy. The world right now is crying out for a team of radio towers who are beaming in the cosmic energy of infinite possibility. It needs a force of human frequencies who believe in the invisible power of light and love. At every moment, whether you know it or not, you are contributing to the collective consciousness. Your thoughts, your energy field, your frequency is putting out an electromagnetic charge that either adds to the old story, the story of lack and limitation, or beams in the new story. I think we can all agree we could use a new story. The old story, the story of separation, tells us our thoughts, our beliefs, our energy fields don't really matter, not in the vast universe of others. It tells us that force and control and taking action is the way to bring about change. Just so you know, gaping holes are being punched in this erroneous assumption. Let's see. In August 2015, the scientific journal Nature published a socks-knocking study proving that things over here, say our thoughts, influence things over there. It's one of quantum theory's fundamental claims that objects separated by great distance instantaneously affect each other's behavior. The fact that two entangled electrons in diamond crystals, separated by nearly a mile, changed spins simultaneously was kind of a big blow to old school physics. Although these types of non-local experiments have been going on since the 70s, she says, I wrote about Bell's theorem, or a cornerstone of quantum mechanics, in E squared. She wrote about that in her book E squared. She said, although these types of non-local experiments have been going on since the 70s, this experiment at Delft University of Technology was emblazoned across the New York Times and media outlets across the world because the physicists who conducted the experiments ruled out all hidden variables and categorically proved that we are all entangled, what a physicist might say, and connected, what a guru might say. In other words, our consciousness has butt-kicking power.
Okay, I'm going to now skip to chapter 6 in her book, and I did not go over this in the Sunday services at all, so I would like to read this chapter to you. It's called Pass Go and Collect Your Gifts, a word, or rather a chapter, from our sponsor. So here she goes. I'm not completely sure how this happened, but I have inadvertently become a PR person for the universe. The perks, as you can imagine, are many, but the best thing about this job is my employer. If you want to call this universal love energy my boss, doesn't ask me to pimp some useless product or lower my standards or pretend to believe in something I don't see proof of every single day. The universe is not trying to sell anything. All it wants is to give and give and give some more. My job as one of its many press agents is to let you know that you are loved unconditionally, always, without exception, no matter what. I'm in charge, if you will, of publicizing the fact that the universe is trying like bloody hell to interact with you. The universe, or God, or the field of infinite potentiality, or whatever name you want to call this energy force, wants nothing more than to bless you, to guide you, to help you create the most exciting version of yourself. And here's the cool part. Not one thing is required of you for this to happen. You don't have to earn its favor or send in a coupon. You just have to release the reality you've been reading about in the news. You just have to make space in your consciousness for the universe to get in. You have to quit fighting life and let it be. You don't have to take my word for it. During the next 30 days, you will be presented with 4 mind-blowing blessings that will prove just how much you've missed holding on so tight to your fake reality. This next subtitle is called We Give the Material World Way More Weight Than It Deserves. It's a pretty sweet gig, speaking on behalf of the universe, and you'd think I'd have no trouble selling this completely awesome news. Except there's this one tiny glitch. Most of us here on planet Earth put all our stock in what we experience with our 5 senses. We continue to do this even though science has proven again and again that our senses have major design flaws. We believe the aforementioned voices in our heads. Instead of looking deeper, instead of relying on something that actually works, we buy into the ticker tape of the nonsense that runs through our brains. We call the crazy voices reality. But the reality we've been experiencing for the past 6,000 years is nothing but a figment of our imaginations and can be changed at any time. I'd like to repeat that last statement. The material reality in which you have invested so heavily can be changed at any time. Once you begin vibrating at a different frequency, the frequency of joy and gratitude, everything in your life will change. Things you never thought possible will show up. You'll probably even send me an email that starts with something like, "You're never going to believe this." Which is why I've been commissioned to offer readers 4 free gifts. Each of these gifts from the universe will be custom made just for you. So I can't promise exactly how yours will show up, but I can guarantee this. If you get on the frequency of gratitude explained in this book, you will receive the following 4 blessings. Number 1. a personal symbol, a totem, or a sign that the universe has your back. Let's see, she's reading about that. She says, you will notice this symbol showing up anytime you need reassurance or guidance. It's a hint, a wink, a nod, assuring you that you're on the right track. I jokingly named this the Carol Burnett principle. Every night during her Emmy-winning variety show, the popular comedian would at some point pull on her earlobe. Remember that? It was a sign, a way of saying hello to her grandmother who raised her. The universe, for those of us paying attention, is every bit as generous. It constantly sends us signs, constantly lets us know, hey, it's going to be all right. You're all right. Pope Francis says that whenever he's troubled or needing comfort, he sees a white rose. That's his personal sign directly from the big guy. My friend Anola is sent a crane, the bird, not the construction rig. Blessings and signs such as these never end. Unfortunately, most of us aren't paying attention, stuck as we are in our old school vibration. We're too busy listening to the voices and following the scripts and constructs that we erroneously created to serve as our reality. On this new frequency, the channel of joy and gratitude, we begin to notice a never-ending stream of magnanimity. Magnanimity. Number 2. This is the second blessing. A magical blessing from the natural world. It might be from a bird or a tree or the misty river of the Milky Way flowing across the sky. When you become receptive to the beauty, the joy, and the excitement of the natural world, you're suddenly free from the boundaries of human existence. Rachel Carson called it a sense of wonder and said it provides an unfailing antidote against the boredom and the sterile preoccupation with things that are artificial, the alienation from the sources of our strength. Gratefully, I can report to Miss Carson that the natural world she so loved is stepping up its game, working overtime to get our attention. And unlike Aladdin's genie, who only gave 3 wishes, nature keeps blessing us day after day. After a tour in Vietnam ended abruptly for former Marine Scott Harrison, his knee was shredded by a grenade after only 7 months. He was airlifted out of the battlefield and returned to an America that, as he says, wouldn't look a soldier in the eye. To cope, he drank, took drugs, and isolated, eventually migrating to San Jose, California, where he worked in a boatyard. In his continuing effort to avoid human contact, he built a 32-foot schooner on which he sailed alone deep into the Pacific. He was out of his mind, sobbing with grief and remorse, hoping for a big storm to capsize his boat and put him out of his misery. Instead, on the 8th day at sea, a 30-foot whale surfaced next to his boat and looked him straight in the eye. The whale swam beside him for 3 or 4 hours. For reasons Harrison says he can't explain, it made me feel loved in a way I'd never been loved before. Wow. Okay, so we're on number 3 now. Number 3, blessing. Okay, 4 blessed out of 4. A message from the other side. She says, or what we erroneously call the other side. There really is no other side. There's just the side we allow into our belief system, and the side we decided is mysterious and or miraculous. The side we tuned out when we dialed into the life blows frequency. Some might label their delivery man an angel. Others might get a shout out from a deceased relative, or hear from a disembodied entity who's reveling in the quantum playground without the limitations of acid reflux, weight gain, and other bodily ailments. Either way, you'll be shown that there's an incredible amount of support in many different dimensions that you have blocked out with your belief that the material world is all there is. Because of our stubborn conviction that we need a body to communicate, we miss a lot of cool messages from our discarnate comrades. Let's just say they have a much bigger perspective. They've escaped the echo chamber of fear that we so often experience on the material plane. When my friend Annala's dad wants to come through, he turns off the TV belonging to her daughter. His granddaughter, who was born the same week he passed. I suppose that he could be annoying if you're right in the middle of an episode of Castle, but you gotta admit, it's hard to ignore him that way. My friend Cindy's brother, who died in his 20s, delivers regular guidance that, as often happens when you're not viewing life from the myopic viewpoint of a body, is much clearer and more loving than the guidance she might get from a bodily bound friend. In the beginning, she said her intense grief thwarted his efforts to communicate, even though they'd made a pact in childhood that whoever went first would come back to say hi. She said to him one day, "You know, it would be a lot easier if you could figure out a clear way to make your presence known. Like, how about using electronics?" A couple of days later, she was downstairs folding laundry when she heard booming music upstairs. She was irritated, wondering what the heck her husband was doing. She met him in the hallway where he too was heading toward the extremely loud music coming from the bathroom. An ear-piercing rendition of one of her brother's favorite songs was playing on a radio they'd left in the bathroom as a decoration. The weirdest part is that radio, which hadn't been used in years, had no batteries. Number 4, blessing. A clear sign that something you've long clung to as absolute fact is not true at all. Take money, for example. A very popular absolute fact is that money is limited and hard to come by. 20 years ago, when I decided to enroll in a $1,500 workshop in Cape Cod, I was dabbling in freelance writing. Most people would call it being unemployed. I had maybe $59 in my checking account. I loved to go to the workshop. I resolved to go to the workshop, even though the responses from the 3 friends I was silly enough to mention it to went something like this: "Dream on, fat chance when pigs fly." But I happen to know the universe can be a crafty mother, so I sent in my $50 deposit. When you have $59 left in your checking account, it's very easy to let go of all the notions you are capable of handling money on your own. I had no choice but to let go of the absolute fact I could not afford the workshop. That very night I sent in my deposit. A woman I barely knew called me to the very night that I sent in my deposit, a woman I barely knew called me to do a project for her new company. She requested an article in Self magazine about the cloth prosthetics she invented for breast cancer patients. The project took me all of 2 hours. The exposure earned her nearly $250,000 and made me wonder, why didn't I charge her a percentage instead of a flat fee? But the $2,000 she paid me was the exact amount I needed for the workshop and the airfare to get there. I'm happy to report that I refrained from calling my friends and saying, "Take that, suckers." Even if I did probably sort of casually paraphrase the quote attributed to the Goethe about boldness having genius, power, and magic. Another example that life is not cut and dried comes from Deepak Chopra, or rather his assistant, who was trying desperately to reach him. Unfortunately, he was in Africa, in a region far from phones, internet, and all the other devices we depend on for communication with others. At that point, most people would accept the absolute fact that he was off the grid and unreachable. Instead, she employed what I call the 101 Dalmatians principle, which posits that we are interconnected with everyone and everything through an invisible field of intelligence and energy. She began sending out message, "Deepak, I really need you to call me. Deepak, call me now." I'm sure you can guess the end of the story. Within a few hours, Deepak called. Okay, well, that's all for tonight. Again, the book is Thank and Grow Rich by Pam Grout, a 30-day experiment in shameless gratitude and unabashed joy. If you want to hear more about the book, you can look at our November Sunday services on our YouTube channel. And otherwise, I will be back next month with a new book for Book Shorts. Thank you so much. This is CSL and Brenda saying, hey, it's Thanksgiving Day, so happy Thanksgiving.